August. By the time that August comes, you know my name. See you where you're gardening, yeah, I beg your pardon. Right to all involvement, right into the day. Got my castle in the yard, it's kinda fucking hard to stand like I'm on guard when the clouds are seeing rain. So my bedroom's more appealing, suffer through the feeling, cause I know you're leaving, gotta act like I'm okay. Why try if it ain't worth it? Why lie if you can't lie? Why cry when you're back to it? I'm fine, just a tad stupid. Why try if it ain't worth it? Why lie if you can't lie? Why cry when you're back to it? I'm fine, just a tad stupid. Why try?
Why you always in the mood? Fuck around acting brand new. I ain't tryna tell you what to do, but try to play it cool. Baby, I ain't playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view. Why you always in the mood? Fuck around acting brand new. I ain't tryna tell you what to do, but try to play it cool. Baby, I ain't playing by your rules. Everything look better with a view.
right, switch her on. Now everybody needs to
Yeah,
have their
it's
lantern
literally
on
really
because
wet.
it is like this, and there's stones and rocks because the deer come down from this area to go into town, and they cause a lot of erosion and things like that. You ready? Mm-hmm. All right, where's your hubby? So 10 paces from your hubby.
Yep.
Leave
See,
him.
baby.
And remember, when that last person goes around the corner, only then are you allowed to stand there and count to 20 and then move off. Are you ready, Donna?
Yeah.
Keep a nice steady pace, okay?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Be the last person.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm gonna be the last person. Cause I want to get the real touch.
Had about 4,000 people. We were the second largest town in Gippsland. How many people do you reckon we've got in Walhalla permanently now? You're not allowed to say.
Like maybe a couple hundred, maybe 100.
Permanent
Oh,
residents?
permanent.
Yeah,
50.
no, lots more. We got just over 1,400.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, all in the cemetery. Well, you don't get much more permanent than that. Living residents, what have we got, Sally? About 15?
23.
23, it's out.
23 permanent
Yeah,
residents. We
yeah.
had a population boom.
Oh, yeah, Malcolm and his wife.
Yep.
Yeah. I always say permanent living residents vary sort of nightly. I consider myself a local. I'm up here for a few nights, so the population's up. Yeah, now a lot of people ask me why a town like Walhalla should be haunted. And there's a couple of reasons I believe it should be haunted. Who knows where the name comes from?
The Norse word Valhalla, Valley of the
Ghosts.
Yeah.
Valley
yeah.
of the Ghosts.
It comes from Valhalla, which essentially means heaven in Norse mythology. So if heaven can't be haunted, then what can be? And the other reason I believe it should be haunted is people see Walhalla as it is today, a beautiful place. During the gold rush, it was a shithole. It was a very industrial town. It was noisy. It was very heavily polluted. Stringers Creek, the little creek that runs through Walhalla today. Is there anyone camping?
Yeah.
Yep. Where are you getting your water from?
We bought a giant container.
Okay, yep. Not out of the creek? No. During the gold rush, Stringers Creek was an open sewer. Everything went in the creek. Human waste was dumped in the creek. Stables were mucked out into the creek. People washed in the creek. It was a bit like a third world country. So it was, a lot different to what it is today. Now we'll be walking around along the main street tonight. Just be conscious of cars. It is a holiday period, but I know personally, Sally, my record for cars on a Saturday night is about 5.
I beat that 2 Saturdays
Did
ago.
ya?
I was 7.
7?
Oh, yeah.
Now, guys, yeah, just touching on that as well. Four drives have a habit of doing 90 to 95 in a 30 zone. Now, if you hear an engine gunning it towards us, please step off to the side of the road and let me deal with them. Because the last thing they expect when they fly around that corner is a woman standing in the middle of the road in a late 1800s dress. I've seen many a white of an eye, and I've even had a guy was speeding through in a ute and he had nothing in the back, so it was backlight. He was going so fast around the corner, he saw me, hit the skids and started to go sideways. That's how fast they go. But you guys don't do that, do you? No.
Now, we'll swap yourself. I'll give you that. To set the scene for the evening, I'll read an extract from the Walhalla Chronicle, dated Saturday, September the 17th, 1870, and it's titled "Frightful Casualty on the New Road." And there's an interesting story that I'll also allow to take relating to this article. And you have to remember, back in 1870, there was no way of putting photographs or anything in newspapers. They had to use English language to portray what was happening. An accident which is apprehended must terminate fatally, happened yesterday morning to a young man named William Henry Trembar. He was engaged chopping some firewood for Mr. Richard Davis, who occupies a house on the sidling track leading out of the township, when a stone of several pounds weight, which it is believed had been uprooted by some swine on the slaughter yard hill above him, came bounding down the precipitous sidling with fearful velocity, gathering impetus as it proceeded, and struck him on the right side of the head, fracturing the skull and actually forcing the fragments of the bone into the brain. The sufferer was instantly taken into the dwelling, while a messenger was speedily dispatched for Dr. MacDonald. The doctor arrived with commendable promptitude, and upon proceeding to examine the patient, found the scalp terribly torn and the skull literally battered in. Indeed, with the aid of his surgical instruments, he was successful in removing several particles of bone, varying from the size of a shilling downwards, which had been embedded nearly an inch deep in the convolutions of the brain. And yet, marvellous to relate, the unfortunate sufferer, although totally insensible to pain, retained his consciousness throughout the whole operation. Upon inquiry at a late hour last night, we learnt that Trembarth had sunk into a comatose state. Now, that William Henry Trembarth is actually my great uncle. He died soon afterwards and is buried up here in the family plot, up here in the cemetery. Now, when we've got a small tour like this, we normally actually start in the print shop. When it's a larger tour, we start outside. And it was about 6 years ago, actually no, it would have been longer than that. I was reading this out, and I've read it that often, I really don't have to refer to it. But this particular night was a little bit of light drizzle, and by the time I'd finished reading it, it was completely unreadable. It's just completely smudged. And when I started the tour, I threw it on the bench, and I thought I'll really have to reprint it for the next tour guide. Anyway, after the tour, I was putting all the lanterns and everything away, and I picked up the bit of paper to throw in the bin in the print shop, and all the hairs on the back of my neck stood up, because in the hour and 45 minutes it took us to do the tour, the bit of paper dried perfectly. So from being unreadable, lots of strange things happen. And I always say, when we're wandering around, if you get the hunch to take a photograph, take a photograph. If you're wandering along and you feel a sudden change in temperature, take a photograph. Rarely does a night go by that we don't have things show up in photographs, or people get touched. Or...
Do we all have our phones on us? Mm-hmm. Yes. All I'm going to ask you to do is to turn them down. Because as Brian said, guys, I want you to take as many photos as you can. Walhalla is now in the top 10 of one of the most haunted towns in Australia. And every single tour, somebody will take a photo of or a video of something we cannot explain. Now, I'm not talking about little lights, I'm talking about full-bodied apparitions. Now, every photo that I talk about during the tour tonight, these are all backed up on our Facebook page. So when you've got a moment, just flick back and have a look. Most of them will absolutely blow your mind.
And take a video too.
You can do whatever you like. Absolutely. Now, before we begin the tour, it's at this stage that I like to take a photo of the group and pop it on our Walhalla Goes Tours Facebook page. Now, if you're some sort of boring party pooper and you don't want